From the heart of Africa, Burkina Faso shines anew.
The Africa Spoke. Don't forget to subscribe for more powerful African stories.
Burkina Faso just turned its back on France and embraced China's war machines. Some call it a move toward independence. Others call it a calculated surrender. But what if both sides are missing the real story? Because what happened last month wasn't just an arms deal, it was a warning shot. Not at insurgents, at the world order. Burkina Faso, a country once seen as a fragile ex-French colony struggling against terrorism, just received a massive shipment of advanced Chinese military hardware. We're talking about modern armored fire support vehicles, self-propelled mortars, and long-range rocket systems. The kind of weapons that rewrite battlefield dynamics. But this shipment didn't arrive in a vacuum. It landed at the exact moment when French influence in the region is collapsing, jihadist groups are pushing deeper into the Sahel, and a young military leader, Captain Ibrahim Traoré, is publicly rejecting Western aid in favor of partnerships with no conditions. Now here's where it gets interesting. This isn't just Burkina Faso buying guns. It's Burkina Faso sending a message to France, to the United States, to anyone who still thinks Africa is waiting for permission. If you were France or the US, how would you interpret this? Is this a sovereign decision or the start of a strategic rebellion? Drop your thoughts in the comments and subscribe if you're ready to explore what comes next. It's where we break down the weapons and why they're designed for more than just combat. Let me know and I'll continue. Let's be clear. China didn't just send Burkina Faso some outdated leftovers. They sent tools designed for modern warfare. Fast, precise, lethal. And the message? You don't need a Western ally to fight like one. The VN-22B isn't just an armored car, it's a battlefield scalpel. And Burkina Faso just added a dozen of them to its arsenal. Manufactured by Norinco, one of China's top defense firms, the VN-22B is a 6x6 wheeled fire support vehicle equipped with a stabilized 105mm cannon, a brutal combination of mobility and raw firepower. Think of it as a tank's little brother, but faster, leaner, and much cheaper. According to Military Africa, this vehicle is perfect for hit-and-run warfare, urban combat, and open desert maneuvers. Exactly the kind of unpredictable terrain insurgent groups thrive in. But here's where it gets interesting. The VN-22B isn't just for fighting rebels. It's designed to counter mobile, high-speed units, like the kind used by other state actors. Is Burkina Faso preparing for insurgents, or for something bigger? The PLL-05 self-propelled mortar is like the Swiss Army knife of artillery. It fires indirect rounds like a traditional mortar, but can also deliver direct fire against armored targets. That means a single unit can do the job of two and move fast enough to escape counterattacks. Burkina Faso received several of these, and each one expands their ability to strike from long range, vanish, and strike again. According to Army recognition, it has a range of up to 13 kilometers, semi-automatic loading, and advanced fire control systems, an overkill package against guerrilla fighters with AK-47s and motorbikes. But ask yourself, why would a country under economic pressure invest in hybrid artillery like this? There are only two answers. They expect serious resistance, or they're sending a signal to everyone watching. If your neighbor suddenly bought twice the firepower they actually need, would you assume they're paranoid or planning something? Let's hear your take in the comments. Like if you're starting to see a bigger picture forming. Burkina Faso didn't just buy weapons, it bought range. And range, in geopolitics, is everything. Because when you can hit a target 70 kilometers away, you're not defending anymore. You're posturing. The SR-5 isn't just a rocket system. It's a chess move, one square closer to long-range deterrence. Developed by China's Norinco Group, the SR-5 Multiple Launch Rocket System, MLRS, is modular, mobile, and terrifyingly versatile. Each unit can be configured to fire either guided or unguided rockets, depending on the mission. Its range? Up to 70 kilometers, far enough to strike deep into militant strongholds or cross borders if things escalate. But it's not just the reach that matters, it's the precision. The SR-5 supports GPS-guided rockets, something Burkina Faso has never had before. That transforms their artillery from a defensive tool into a strategic asset. When a government fighting insurgents starts buying precision-guided weapons, the world usually applauds. But what if those same weapons start shaping political power? Mobility? The SR-5 is truck-mounted, fast to reload, and can fire and relocate in minutes. Perfect against guerrilla tactics. Payload diversity. It supports multiple rocket calibers, allowing for both pinpoint strikes and wide-area suppression. Export logic. This is the same system China sold to Algeria and Saudi Arabia. It's now in Burkina Faso. The playbook is expanding. According to Military Watch magazine, the SR-5 redefines battlefield firepower for mid-tier militaries. But it also redefines who gets to play global defense politics. For decades, the US has kept precision strike capabilities close to its chest, fearing proliferation. The idea of GPS-guided artillery in a politically unstable region like the Sahel? That's not just an arms deal, that's a doctrine shift. It's why Pentagon analysts have quietly flagged China's MLRS exports as part of a broader strategic encroachment into regions once aligned with Western military frameworks. In simple terms, Washington doesn't fear the SR-5. It fears what comes after the SR-5, when the training, maintenance, and influence follow. Would the US ever allow an unstable ally to own GPS-guided rockets without conditions? Then why is China doing it? Comment with your thoughts. And if you're starting to question the map of military power, hit like and subscribe. Because we're only just getting started. You don't just wake up one day and tell France to leave. Unless you already have someone else on speed dial. Burkina Faso's pivot to China didn't come out of nowhere. It followed a series of calculated moves and growing frustrations. Since 2013, Burkina has been fighting a brutal insurgency tied to jihadist networks like ISIS and Al-Qaeda. France, under Operation Barkhane, had troops stationed in the region, offering military aid, logistics, and counter-terrorism support. But after nearly a decade, the violence hadn't stopped. Attacks were getting worse, civilians were dying, and worse, many locals began to see the French not as protectors, but as occupiers. In 2022, Burkina Faso expelled French forces from its territory. By late 2023, under Captain Ibrahim Traoré, the country had severed most remaining ties with Paris. Aid was frozen, diplomats withdrawn, and into that vacuum stepped Beijing. This wasn't just anti-French sentiment, it was a strategic divorce. China offered what France didn't: no lectures about democracy, no conditions on human rights, no delays in delivery. Instead, they offered what Captain Traoré needed right now: weapons, training, maintenance, financing. According to Africa Business Insider, the financing model was especially attractive. Deferred payments, low-interest loans, maintenance bundles. In other words, military power with flexible terms. But let's not pretend this was just about money. This was about control over how the military fights, control over which allies show up and which ones stay out. From Washington's point of view, what's happening isn't just local frustration, it's geostrategic realignment. Burkina is not the only one. Mali, Niger, Chad, Central African Republic. They're all tilting away from Western alliances and leaning into Chinese and Russian-backed security models. To the US State Department, this looks like a return to sphere of influence politics, but this time, Africa is choosing the sphere. If a former colony breaks from its old master, is that independence or just a new kind of dependence? Let me know how you see it. Drop a comment, and if you're following this power shift, hit subscribe to stay sharp. China doesn't just export weapons, it exports influence, packed in crates and painted olive green. On the surface, China's deals in Africa look purely transactional. You need weapons. We have them. Let's talk. But underneath that surface, there's a very calculated design, something Beijing has been perfecting for years. It's called hardware diplomacy. Here's how it works. China offers military equipment at a discount, often 20 to 30% cheaper than Western options. They bundle in training, repairs, logistics, even advisors, and they offer concessional financing that fits tight African budgets. According to CIPRI, China has become the second largest arms supplier to sub-Saharan Africa, behind only Russia. Burkina Faso is just one dot on a much larger map. But here's the twist. These deals aren't one-off transactions. They're footholds. Every tank delivered, every radar installed, every rocket system shipped ties that country a little tighter to China's defense orbit. You don't need to invade a country if you already service its entire military infrastructure. In Burkina Faso's case, China now provides the vehicles they drive, the rockets they fire, the mechanics who maintain them, and the software that targets enemies. In essence, a sovereign military that runs on Chinese code. According to analysts at the Brookings Institution, this model is exporting dependence under the illusion of autonomy. But from Beijing's perspective, it's strategic patience. They're not just building clients, they're building allies. From a Washington standpoint, military aid is usually a tool for leverage. Training deals come with vetting. Arms deals come with oversight. There are rules, restrictions, human rights clauses, but China skips the strings and gets results. The fear isn't just that these countries are buying weapons. It's that they're buying a new worldview, a worldview where authoritarian efficiency beats democratic procedure, where results matter more than values, where the West looks obsolete. Is China simply giving Africa options? Or is it quietly rewriting the rules of global loyalty? If you've got a take on that, now's the time to share it. And don't forget to like and subscribe. We go deeper from here. Burkina Faso made the first move. But in this game, first movers don't stand alone for long. The Sahel region, stretching from Mauritania to Sudan, has become a pressure cooker of insurgencies, coups, and power vacuums. And now, one by one, countries are starting to rethink who they trust with their security. Burkina Faso broke ranks first. Then came Mali, who expelled French forces and welcomed Russian Wagner operatives. Niger followed, staging a coup and questioning Western defense aid. In the Central African Republic, Chinese security trainers now outnumber European ones. This isn't just a shift, it's a chain reaction. And China's military footprint is quietly expanding behind the scenes of each pivot. According to the Stockholm International Peace Research Institute, SIPRI, Chinese arms sales to Africa rose by over 55% between 2018 and 2024, with 50% of that growth concentrated in the Sahel corridor. The West sees instability, China sees opportunity. But here's the real risk. When one country arms up, neighbors take notice. Mali is reportedly in talks to acquire its own batch of SR-5 rocket systems. Niger has approached Turkey and China simultaneously, weighing options. Even Chad, long considered a pro-France ally, is reviewing its defense partnerships. This isn't diplomacy anymore. It's deterrence. And like every arms race in history, the danger isn't just who buys what. It's who blinks first. Washington has seen this before. Latin America, the Middle East, Southeast Asia, all went through periods where regional arms buildups spiraled into proxy wars. The Sahel has all the ingredients: unstable governments, external backers, cross-border insurgencies. And now, precision weaponry. This isn't just a military challenge, it's a test of narrative. Who owns the moral high ground? Who defines what security really means? And China is offering a fast, simple answer in a region drowning in complexity. Do you think an arms race in the Sahel is inevitable or still preventable? Let's get into it. Drop your take below. And if this kind of analysis keeps you thinking, subscribe. We're only scratching the surface. You can't shoot your way out of poverty. But try telling that to a government under siege. In the past 2 years, Burkina Faso increased its military spending by 238%, the sharpest rise in all of West Africa, according to the Overseas Development Institute. On paper, that makes sense. Jihadist attacks are growing, civilians are dying, the country feels cornered. But look deeper, and the trade-offs become painfully clear. In 2022, Burkina's healthcare system collapsed in 4 provinces due to lack of funding. Over 2,000 schools were shut down, leaving nearly 500,000 children out of class. Doctors fled. Teachers went unpaid. Rural clinics ran out of medicine. Meanwhile, the Defense Ministry was signing deals worth tens of millions of dollars for tanks, rockets, and armored carriers. And now, Chinese technicians are teaching soldiers how to fire missiles, while villagers walk 20 kilometers to the nearest midwife. Security buys survival. But when it's the only thing you buy, what's left to protect? Governments argue, without safety, there's no development. That's true. But development also prevents the very instability that fuels war in the first place. According to a UNDP study, regions with the highest school dropout rates in the Sahel also produce the highest number of radicalized youth recruits. In simple terms, a rocket may kill a terrorist, but a school could prevent one. In Washington, there's constant debate about balancing military aid with development support. That's why USAID and the State Department often co-author foreign aid plans. One brings the guns, the other brings the bandages. But China's model is different. They focus almost exclusively on the hard stuff: weapons, roads, power stations. It's clean, it's fast, it's concrete, but it leaves a vacuum. And in places like Burkina Faso, that vacuum is filled with unrest, mistrust, and silence. Would you rather fund 5 more rocket trucks or 5,000 more school books? That's not just a budget question, it's a moral one. Tell me where you stand. Comment below, like if you believe security and dignity must rise together. When someone gives you power, but also holds the charger, are you free or just fully charged? Burkina Faso's military transformation is impressive, but there's a hard truth underneath the steel and smoke. Most of the equipment can't function without Chinese parts, Chinese maintenance, and Chinese updates. The fire support vehicles? Serviced by Chinese contractors. The rocket systems? Calibrated with Chinese guidance software. The artillery? Runs on Chinese munitions. At face value, this is smart logistics. But look deeper, and it starts to feel like digital dependency wrapped in camouflage. According to a 2024 report by Chatham House, over 60% of African states receiving Chinese military aid also rely on Chinese cybersecurity infrastructure, satellite data, and encrypted communications. China isn't just supplying weapons, it's supplying the nervous system of the battlefield. This raises a critical question. Are these nations gaining autonomy or just switching power sources? Let's compare. The US. Model. Slower delivery. Comes with strings. Democracy benchmarks. Human rights clauses. Offers joint training. Military-to-military exchange. Transparency laws apply to funding. The China model. Rapid deployment. No political interference. On paper. Financing through concessional loans. Equipment tightly integrated into Chinese ecosystems. To many African leaders, the Chinese model feels practical. To Western analysts, it looks like silent capture. This is more than competition. It's a systemic challenge. If your army trains on Chinese doctrine, uses Chinese software, and operates Chinese equipment, then what happens when your politics collide with Beijing's interests? According to Brookings, there's already evidence of African regimes self-censoring UN votes or regional stances to avoid jeopardizing military supply lines from China. Translation: the guns aren't just aimed outward, they influence what stays silent inside. Do you think this is smart diplomacy or just a quiet form of control? Drop your perspective in the comments. And if you're seeing the long game unfold, hit like, share it, and stick with us. The map is still moving. You can upgrade your army in a year. But if you upgrade the wrong doctrine, it might take decades to undo. So far, we've talked about what Burkina Faso gains from this shift: firepower, mobility, independence from the West. But here's the part no one talks about. What if all this new power breaks the wrong way? Because history shows, rapidly arming unstable states can create unintended monsters. Just ask Libya. In the early 2000s, Gaddafi modernized his forces with billions in arms. But when the regime collapsed, those weapons flooded neighboring countries, fueling insurgencies that still haunt the Sahel today. Or think of Afghanistan, a country flooded with Western gear only to fall, leaving behind a well-equipped Taliban. Now consider this. What if Burkina Faso's fragile government collapses? Or worse, what if some of these systems end up in the wrong hands? Burkina Faso could go from being China's showcase to its cautionary tale. There's also another risk, one far more subtle. What if the Chinese systems don't perform as expected in real combat? Most of the PLA's exported gear has never been battle-tested at scale in African terrain, against mobile insurgents who don't play by the book. In 2023, reports from Ethiopia and Sudan showed multiple Chinese armored vehicles malfunctioning under sustained operations, overheating, weak armor welds, poor repair cycles. So while the contracts look clean, the battlefield doesn't. What looks like strategic superiority could turn into operational liability. Fast. This is where military influence meets real-world fragility. At Rand Corporation, analysts have warned that China's arms export boom is outpacing its global support structure. Translation? They're selling more weapons than they can effectively service. In Burkina Faso, that means a dependency without a safety net. And if conflict escalates, if logistics fail, or if Chinese advisors pull back, what's left? A half-modernized army fighting 21st century battles with no backup plan. Is this a blueprint for self-reliance or a trap disguised as progress? What happens when the system breaks mid-battle? Drop your thoughts below and hit subscribe if you think these questions matter more than ever. In a story full of weapons, money, and alliances, someone has to win. But what if no one actually does? Burkina Faso got what it wanted. New firepower, modern systems, a break from its old colonizer. China got what it wanted, a foothold in the Sahel, a new client, a quiet, strategic win without firing a shot. And the West? It's watching from the sidelines, still influential, but increasingly outpaced. But step back and look again. The insurgents haven't disappeared. The schools are still closed, the hospitals still underfunded, the youth still unemployed and radicalized. For all the money spent and missiles delivered, the question remains, what exactly was secured? Maybe the winner isn't China. Maybe it isn't Burkina Faso either. Maybe it's the chaos, because chaos feeds arms dealers. It justifies foreign intervention. It silences democratic reform, and it allows powerful nations to play chess on someone else's board. Whether it's China filling the vacuum or the West trying to claw back influence, the people on the ground rarely get to move the pieces. So yes, the weapons are shiny. The partnerships look efficient. But until the battlefield calms, until the budget feeds both soldiers and students, no one really wins. Who do you think this game is really serving? Burkina Faso, China, the West, or something far more unpredictable? Leave your answer in the comments. And if you've followed this story all the way here, thank you. Like, subscribe, and join us next time when we look at the next piece on the board.